So I'm so glad that Nick Carter is able to present evidence that shows that he had a great claim that Melissa Schuman, the former lead singer for the band Dream, which is pretty good, who claimed years and years ago that he forced himself on her, uh, but she didn't claim it until like 10 years after, when she was seeing that her solo career was going to fail, and she accused him of consent. It was consensual. Everything was. She waited all these years to come out, and that's. She said she was traumatized by it, and blah blah blah. But even after that, she did a duet with him. And when his dad died, she did a live saying how she badly she felt for Nick. But I wanted to share this article because I'm going to dig into this. Nick Carter has been able to actually countersue her for defaming his reputation. So he's gone all deaf on her. Excuse me. I got involved in that, and through the his side too, which a lot of times women can just say a man did something, and that's it. And those days need to be over. Johnny Depp started that. It brought more attention to it, and I hope that Nick Carter and Johnny Depp hook up on this because it's a major win for Nick that he's able to present evidence now and countersue her. And I hope he does because I had personal interaction with her and her dad and the Reverend James Hartline guy that was their friend. He was a gay preacher who defamed being gay and said he's no longer gay and he had AIDS. He was just a vile human being. And anybody that spoke out against Schuman, he came after him. He came after myself and he came after Molly. And he was just vile, sick man. But I wanted to go over some of the contradictions that she has displayed over the years regarding this. So I found this article that I found a long time ago, and I'm going to go over it. Melissa Schuman states, in my 20s, I blamed myself for years of not having the same amount of success after leaving my group Dream. Truth be told, I had the same opportunity to make it big on my own, but I said no to much of what was required. My opinions and convictions have given me a reputation of being religious, prudish, and hard to work with. Not something you want to be known for at the ripe age of 18. So I continued on, and I struggled for years to find my voice as a recording artist. Hindsight is 2020, and looking back, I understand why. Everyone around me wanted to record songs entirely focused on sex, despite my spiritual and moral opposition to it. Shortly after, I received a call from my manager telling me he got me a page in a men's magazine. He was aware of my moral and religious boundaries. He knew I wasn't going to be excited about the opportunity, but stressed the necessity of doing a spread like this in a publication like Maxim or FHM. I couldn't do it. I was expecting a corset or something, or something that the Pussycat Dolls would wear. Not a thong, bikini, and a bra. I was 18. I panicked. I freaked. I froze. My page in the magazine never made it to print due to me not being sexy enough. Needless to say, I was never called back into the studio heads. Now, she said I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But then she says my page never made it. I couldn't do it, but you did do it. And your page didn't make it. You said you didn't even want to be in the magazine, but you did it after you said you couldn't do it. That's the only reason we're adding the following examples to why we're confused about her contradicting words to her actions. It says sex right here. In the following DM, Melissa's father, Jerry, guy's a dick, tries to explain this belt. We find it a little odd that Melissa stated in her sexual harassment blog just weeks before her Nick blog that she had no problem saying no to things because of her Christian faith. Okay, I'll give you this. Here's your Christian faith. You're a young teenager, and you're hanging out at a rock star's house. He invites you to tour the house. In the bathroom, you start kissing, making out. He kind of props you up on the counter and pulls your pants down and gets on his knees and begins to pleasure you. You didn't stop him there. Actually, he was vulnerable. In that position, you could have wrapped your legs around his neck and choked the shit out of him. Well, no, you didn't stop him there. You proceeded to return the favor, and then you moved into the bedroom. I'm just saying, if your Christian faith is so strong that you wouldn't do an ad like that to make money, what are you doing at a rock star's house? And so, anyways, I asked her, because I was concerned with why did she wait for so long. It was after Dream. She was trying to start a solo career, and it just wasn't working for her. What a way to get attention. But anyways, I asked her, why did you wait for so long? Because she did this open live where people could ask questions. And of course, I went over there. I said, why did you wait so long to say anything? And why did you do a duet with your attacker? Because she did do a duet with Nick afterwards. And her answer to me was, oh, you're BryanSt.John. You're friends with that Molly girl. You're a bad person. You're a bad person and you need help. And she blocked me. And my being friends with Molly isn't what led me to this. I mean, of course, she knew Nick and she knew Lauren. She knew Aaron. But I knew about this story before I met Molly. And I've got something against these women in the entertainment business who claim that these all-powerful men, and I'm telling you what, if Nick Carter wasn't Nick Carter, if he wasn't a Backstreet Boy, he would probably have to work at getting a date. But he's Nick Carter. Part of being a rock star is you get your pick of women or men or whatever you want. It's just that way. That's part of the benefits. He can have any female he wants, basically. If he set out to focus on a female that he wanted, he can have her. He's Nick Carter. It's not about his physical. It's about his power. I have a hard time believing that he had to force himself on anybody. And again, in the bathroom, he props her up. He begins motorboating her. She comes down and returns the favor, and then they go into the bedroom. But the whole time, she didn't want any of this to happen. So she claims. Anyways. Was it really that hard to take off a belt entirely if it didn't fit your values, rather than to leave it on and spend time trying to fix it because apparently it was supposed to say sexy, which would have taken longer than simply taking it off. Off topic, but something to point out is, remember, for later in this blog, Melissa's father states that there is this movement for the next steps publicly, basically saying they want to make sure the story gets attention and that it's not about destroying Nick, but meant for her healing. Okay, now she says she's got these moral values and she turned down a lot of stuff because of her Christian values. And here she is contradicting herself right here in this video. This is 2000. This is after she made that statement. So I'm going to go ahead and run this.
Okay, guys. My next guest is gorgeous, and she rocked the charts with the P. Diddy girl band Dream. She's also in the upcoming film Love Don't Cost a Thing. She's here now to perform for us. Please give it up for Melissa Schuman.
It's time to jam. Calling out you nasty boys. Dance, dance, dance. Come on. It's time to jam. Calling out you nasty boys. Dance, dance, dance. Nasty boy, I like your style. I wanna get to know ya. See what you're about. I wanna give it to ya, but it won't come easy. And if you're curious, first you gotta please me. Be at my command and move your body right. And if you move it right, you'll dance with me tonight. So Bobby, won't you show me what you're working with? You better make it good in order to get with this. Ooh, you got to make it hot for me. I wanna see you sweat for me. Go up and down and round for me. Dance like you never danced before to me. Make it hot for me. I wanna see you sweat for me. Go up and down for me. Go up and down for me. Look me straight into my eyes and tell me you don't want me. I got to hypnotize. It's working with the package. If you didn't know, and if you don't know how to use it, what good is it for? I wanna see you move. Put me in the mood to dance the night away. But before we can play, baby, won't you show me what you're working with? You better make it good if you want this, yeah, yeah. Oh, make it hot for me. I wanna see you sweat for me. Go up and down for me. Dance like you never danced before to me. Yeah, make it hot for me. I wanna see you sweat for me. Go up and down for me. Go up and down for me. Oh, make it hot for me. I wanna see you sweat for me. Go up and down for me. Dance like you never danced before to me. Make it hot for me. I wanna see you sweat for me. Go up and down for me. Go up and down for me.
Thank you so much. Woo! Whoa. Amazing.
Now, could you tell that that's a conservative Christian woman who has values and would turn things down that were too sexual for her? As she came on to Sharon Osbourne's show, you know, Ozzy, the Prince of freaking Darkness, his wife. Does she look like she's conservative there? Or does she just look like a hypocrite? You can tell now this was in 2000 in area, 2003. Apparently, it didn't air. And I'm gonna tell you my opinion. She tried to make a solo career for herself after she left Dream. You can clearly tell why she didn't make it. She's got the look, but she doesn't have dance moves. Her lyrics suck, and she can't sing. I'm not a singer, but that's obviously why it didn't make it on Sharon's show. So once she realized that she couldn't do that, what next? What next? Again, this is not to shame her for wearing what she wants, but to show how Melissa's statements contradict her actual actions. Simply put, hypocrisy, in some opinions, and a conundrum nonetheless. Now, this James Hartline guy, I'll get into him later. I'll read a little bit about it. But this guy came after me and Melissa relentlessly. The third reason James Hartline attacked Bryan for being Christian and also showing support for the gay community, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get into this later. But what I want to talk about is the hypocrisy of this woman and why I don't believe her. You can see in just this short thing that she contradicts what she says. I don't believe that Nick forced himself on her. And I encourage any female, if you feel like someone's forced himself on you, don't stay their friend. Don't wish them well when their dad passes away. Don't do a duet with them. And don't wait till your career is failing miserably to bring it up to the public. Nick Carter has no reason to force himself on any female ever when all he has to do is ask. He asked her, let me show you the rest of the house. And she got up and went with him. He propped her up on that counter and did what he did, and she didn't stop him. She didn't go tell him the next day. She went to tell, I think it was 10 years later, when she could see that her career wasn't going that well. Quickly, I'm going to share a dream video. I have to move around a little bit. Give us just a second here. I'm going to find a dream video, and I'll show you how good she was in a group that I thought their band was good. Okay, I found a good one here. Now remember this song, so we're gonna have to listen to the commercial. I'm gonna skip that ad real quick. I want to present this. I'll show you the difference. Okay. We're good. They were good, but as single, they carried her voice. I don't think she sang that well. But I'm not a critic, so let's see here. Let's see here. Okay. On this one, now remember, she was traumatized by what Nick did to her. She says she was traumatized. She had to keep it quiet. She carried it for years. But she also did a duet with Nick. They made money off of it afterwards. And then you can see when Nick Carter's dad dies, you can see her lives. Oh, I feel so bad for him. Poor Nick. I'm going to reach out to the family. I feel so bad for him. And I would assume that women who are attacked by a man who forced himself on him will be traumatized by him and want nothing else to do with him ever. Ever. I think the whole thing was a publicity stunt. But here's a bit of the song they sang together there for me.
It's a taste
After this Werther's commercial, apparently.
Lately I've been thinking about the things that we've been through, and I don't know if I'd be here if not for you. I had to take a little time to try to work things out, and you should know that I had never meant to let you down. 'Cause I want wanna tell you that I'm sorry, and even when I'm not giving enough and I'm taking too much, you're still there for me. Even when I got nothing at all and I'm ready to fall, you're still there for me. There for me. There for me. Even when I can't be there for you, you're always there for me.
Sometimes I know I can be so hard to understand.
It's okay.
Even when I'm lost, just show me who I really am.
He's about to show you who you really are.
Life with me, it hasn't always been an easy ride. But because of you, I've learned to lose my selfish pride.
But because of you, I learned to lose my selfish high. So even though this man allegedly forced sex on her, she can put that all aside for some money for this song. Now she will say that we weren't even in the same studio together. I didn't run into him, blah blah blah. But you knew that you were having a duet, which would put money in your rapist pocket, as well as yours. I'm pretty sure she was hoping that this would catapult her into extreme fame, but it didn't. What she's famous for right now, oh, she's that girl in that band that Nick Carter allegedly did. That's what she's famous for now.
I want to tell you that I'm sorry, and
even when I'm not giving enough and I'm taking too much, you're still there for me. Even when I got nothing at all and I'm ready to fall, you're still there for me. There for me.
even when I can't be there for you,
oh, you're always there for me. Yeah.
Now I'm going to skip past her attorneys because she didn't show. She didn't need to show. I'm going to skip past her attorney's statement here, but I want to get to this firecracker here. This firecracker here that's standing with Nick. He's got a very cheap suit on. I don't understand that, but that's okay. He doesn't want to look like that rich rock star. But let's move past this. It's bull. You know, you can listen to it if you want, but it kind of made me sick. I want to just listen to this after he sits his ass down.
Copies, I'll see my any further remarks to respond to what they said. Thank you.
Listen to this comeback. Listen to this rebuttal. This is just one of his attorneys.
In bringing this anti-SLAPP request to Schuman today, both this court will dismiss Mr. Carter's counterclaims simply because he's a celebrity. They want this court to strip him of any due process, of any right to defend himself against these heinous and false accusations of sexual assault. But fortunately, as your Honor is well aware, Nevada's anti-SLAPP legislation only serves to dismiss those lawsuits where it is so obvious on its face that they lack merit early on and are brought for an ulterior purpose. This court.
What she's talking about is when Nick brought these allegations up and he wanted to sue her. The Schumans wanted all that dismissed and left out of the court document. They didn't want anybody to hear this. It's coming from her dad. That's what she meant by that. They wanted to block this so people couldn't hear it.
court has already properly found that Mr. Carter's counterclaim was not brought to harass or intimidate, and each of his compulsory counterclaims sets forth a viable cause of action under Nevada law. That's the law of the case. Importantly, the counterclaim is the product of Mr. Carter finally being able to defend himself, stand up for himself, after struggling alone in silence for years. His counterclaims expose the truth, and in reality, it exposes the dark side of fandom. Sadly, the counterclaim also reveals how the Schumans preyed on the vulnerable and deteriorating Aaron Carter. They manipulated him.
They sure did.
Used him, all to extort and defame his brother. Now, Mr. Greenberg talks about the two-pronged analysis. He says, we don't disagree with the standard for the first prong, but he admits that for the sexual assault statements, they have to show by a preponderance of the evidence that they were good faith communications that are truthful or made without knowledge of their falsity. The only evidence they produce on this point are their own clients' self-serving declarations and two other declarations, as he mentioned, Ms. Schuman's therapist and her friend, Rachel Green. Both witnesses nearly parrot what she told them. Neither one has firsthand knowledge of this supposed alleged sexual assault. So at this stage, Schumann's relying solely on their beliefs is inadequate, especially given the mountain of contradictory evidence that we have in the record.
Bam.
Specifically, 92 exhibits, approximately
92.
20 affidavits,
Bam.
proving that Mr. Carter did not sexually assault Melissa Schuman or Shannon Ruth, that this is all an extortive conspiracy.
That's right.
Mr. Carter's testimony alone, I disagree with Mr. Greenberg. He specifically contradicts what Ms. Schuman has put in her declaration. Everything was consensual. And he contradicts all of her beliefs. That should be enough. But fortunately, others have come forward, like Tony Bass, who was present that very evening, and he testifies that Melissa Schuman was not sexually assaulted. Why? Because he was lying on the floor, awake, 3 feet away from her, with her friend Rachel Green when she says this happened. 15 years later, knowing full well that Tony Bass has had a falling out with Nick Carter, she tries to recruit him.
Yep.
She goes so far to even name drop a highly influential, well-known person from their childhood, meaning Nick and Tony's childhood community, which Tony felt and testified was pure manipulation and attempt to coerce him. He refuses to do it. And he specifically testifies that he was, quote, totally shocked and blindsided by her sexual assault claims. Your Honor, even the Schumann's own evidence that they have submitted to this court contradicts her own story. Rachel Green was her best friend and roommate at the time. She testifies that when they left Nick Carter's apartment the next morning, quote, I thought everything was fine. Even in Melissa Schuman's November 2nd, 2017 blog, she admits that Rachel got in the car the next morning, turned on the ignition, and explained, that was so much fun, huh? So, Melissa Schuman is claiming to have been violently and repeatedly raped in one bathroom, then another bathroom, and then in the bedroom of a small apartment, and all through the night, and all through the next morning. Her best friend, who is there in close proximity, has no idea. How can that be, Judge? It's because it never happened. On top of that, Melissa Schuman's very own documented actions in the public forum confirm that her tall tale is a moving target, ever changing, ever evolving, but always untrue. To justify their outrageous online defamatory conduct that includes comparing Nick Carter to the likes of Harvey Weinstein,
Jeez.
they rely on police reports and fabricated stories of sexual assault from other women. Not only do they lack any firsthand knowledge of these events, but in all of those cases, every single one, law enforcement investigated and did not prosecute.
That's right.
And Your Honor should know that in one of those cases, law enforcement actually determined that the accuser should be charged criminally, who now has a criminal record of filing false police reports. Regardless, relying on this type of evidence does not satisfy their burden, proving their statements were made in good faith that they blasted all over the internet and in the media. Even if the court finds otherwise for the first prong, this counterclaim has already survived anti-SLAPP scrutiny.
Bam.
The only difference today is that Mr. Carter has provided this court with more evidence of the conspiracy. Your Honor, it sounds like, listening to counsel argue, that it's almost as if we're at two different hearings today. The Schumans want this court to issue rulings as if we were a trial, which, don't get me wrong, we look forward to that, and we welcome that with open arms. But today we're here on what their actual request is, and that is dismissal under the SLAPP Act. Just because Mr. Carter is a celebrity, they urge this court to impose immediately a higher burden of clear and convincing evidence. The court can bear that in mind, that's what the cases say, but it doesn't supplant the prima facie standard actually codified by our legislature. In either way, we have more than satisfied either standard, even at this preliminary, pre-discovery stage. As this court is aware, it is extremely rare to have direct evidence of a conspiracy. Now, Mr. Greenberg said we just provided circumstantial evidence. That's not the case. Shane Coyle testified that he actually entered into an agreement with the Schumans and Aaron Carter where they would publicly pay Nick Carter as a sexual predator and share in all the money realized from destroying his image. But soon, Shane Coyle discovered that Melissa Schuman was lying about being raped by Mr. Carter. And Shane Coyle also discovered that her father, Jerry Schuman, knew she was lying about it, but they don't care. They just wanted to get rich off their lies. And it's extremely telling that the Schumans do not even address Shane Coyle's testimony about their conspiracy. And they certainly don't deny it. Instead, they just attack his character and provide this court with video clips doctored to try to fit their narrative. Well, it's a good thing that the internet lasts forever, because in early 2020, Shane Coyle publicly outed the Schumans and Aaron Carter's conspiracy aimed to extort Mr. Carter, which occurred way before this lawsuit. And Aaron Carter himself publicly exposed the Schumans and Chattanooga's lies on social media before he unfortunately passed. Your Honor, falsely accusing someone of a crime like sexual assault is inherently malicious. Actual malice is presumed. That's why our laws, Nevada law, recognizes it as a defamation per se tort. But again, we're here on anti-SLAPP. This is not trial, not yet. So as before, with the amount of evidence Mr. Carter has provided, the counterclaim not only satisfies the minimal merit standard, but also the substantial merit prong. Now, to be clear, today is a question about whether the counterclaim is a meritless SLAPP suit. It's not. Not with this much in factual dispute, not with how detailed the counterclaim is, and not with this extensive evidentiary record before discovery has even opened. To address the admissibility of evidence, that Sweetwater case is still good law in California, 2019. And our statute itself, that's what Mr. Greenberg wants, our statute itself requires this court to consider evidence, written or oral, by witnesses or affidavits that may be material. That's what anti-SLAPP is. So, Your Honor, this is so far off of what our anti-SLAPP laws were intended and designed to prevent early on in the case. Otherwise, that would mean any celebrity wrongfully and publicly accused of sexual assault would be deprived of any right to assert a counterclaim in their defense. And that's simply not the law. So we ask that you deny the instant motion, and given your clear and comprehensive rulings about, meeting the second prong as in a prior proceeding, we believe that the Schumann's instant motion was done not only vexatiously, but it's frivolous. And so we also ask that you reward Mr. Carter attorney's fees and costs. Thank you.
Well, she's a firecracker.
Thank you, Your Honor. I did not hear counsel say that.
So, be watching the case because it's going to be a good one. I think Melissa Schuman's about to get owned for making false claims against this man. And he's got a firecracker for a lead lawyer. That's a fact. His side too.